So back when I worked at the factory, I knew this guy called Wagner. He worked at the same section as me, and with the machines. And he came in one day, and he was so pale, like white as a sheet. And I asked him what was wrong. He told me he was going to be a father, but he didn't know if the child was going to be his. He just had this sort of feeling, this sort of intuition that was telling him. He kept coming in, and he got paler every day. He used to weigh himself as well. He would get one of the scales from one of the big machines, and he went into the other room. He weighed himself like he was trying to measure his weight and colour or something. I don't know. But months passed. His performance really suffered at work. He used to have sort of a zeal about oil and rust and machines, but he totally lost that. He took 2 weeks off for leave after that, and he came back and he'd gained about 2 stone. He put on like a lot of weight. And I asked him why he took 2 weeks off, and all I heard him say was that he was in pain. I don't know, maybe I misheard him through the sound of the machines. So he came in one day with these really bad cramps and congestions. Really bad, really painful. Even for machinists like us. He would leave halfway through the day and just bulk outside for ages. And then come back in, get his stuff, just go home, finish for the day. He kept putting on weight, even though he never ate anything. I went to him during lunch one day because he had no food, and I offered him my sandwich. He just said no because of the child. So one day he came in and he said that he couldn't take it anymore, locked himself into one of the machines and sliced off a big part of his belly. We were all stood outside just watching him. And then when he'd finished, we went back to work as if nothing had ever happened. Forgot about the whole thing. Wagner quit after that. I miss him, I think. I don't know. Whenever I think about him, I feel like I can hear footsteps coming from some of the machines. And that reminds me I shouldn't think about him. It's not good to daydream in this line of work. You could hurt yourself. Back when I worked at the factory, I got a complaint. A really beautiful letter, but it was completely blank. Nothing written about who to contact or anything. So I just kind of dismissed it until after work. And then I looked at the envelope, the return address. I followed it to a house by the river and some fields in the woods. I went up to the front door and knocked, and a woman answered. It's very beautiful, very pale as well. She seemed younger than me, but more experienced. I don't know. I didn't have experience with anything really except machines. I asked her about the letter and she told me her husband wrote it. I asked if I could speak to her husband, but then she said that he'd died years ago. I don't really know what that means. She told me she was having tea with the taxman, invited me in, said I'd like to meet him because we do the same work. I didn't really know what she meant by that, but when I walked into the house, she seemed older, sort of wiser maybe. I don't know, I never asked her her age. I met the taxman and he seemed like a nice guy, sound enough. He took a lot of sugar in his tea. He liked it really sweet and all. Whenever I asked her why she wasn't having any tea, she just said that she has a sort of chronic condition, which means that she's slowly losing faith in everything, day by day. It's fairly strange, isn't it? We don't really hear things like that in our profession. Haven't been to see the doctor in ages, mind you. Can't afford it. After a while, the taxman invited us out on a round of taxing with him. I was a bit afraid at first, you know, random taxing. I don't have much money, but he assured me I was in no trouble with the government. So we went out, me, him and the widow. We went door to door, and the villagers were surprised, you know. We were taxing them, but they handed over their money anyway. After a while, we got to the last house on the road, faced out towards some fields. We knocked the door in, there was no response. So I kicked the door in, you know, as taxmen do, I think. We walked in and it was cold and quiet. So the taxman went into the house, went straight to the far wall. He licked it and then stood back a couple steps and took out his gun and fired 6 shots into the wall. I was stunned, you know, we don't really use guns in factories. I walked up to the wall and looked through the holes, and I saw this little space with like pipes and stuff in it. Then I saw the family. The mother saw me through the gunshot holes and screamed. They all ran out onto the street. The taxman followed them, lined up with his gun. After the first shot, I felt the earth rise up in the room. He shot them all down then, like bowling pins. And I remember what he said. He said, "Look at them fall," with a gunshot between each word. I saw the widow on the hill, and I felt the earth rise up to an uncomfortable angle within the house. I don't really know what happened after that, if I closed my eyes or if I passed out. All I know is it got really dark and I just crumpled.